Yay. In reaching the end of a project, it is a best practice to go back and think about the process you took to get there, as well as the product you made. It's called a post-mortem. Not to be morbid, but it means after death. The point is, you're done. And you could walk away, and the risk is that you will forget all the lessons learned. You forget all the good things you should take with you. You forget all the bad things you should avoid next time. To improve, a professional takes stock of that process and product at that time, notes it down, prioritizes what is more important than the rest, and then takes that on to the next project. Post-mortem done properly is not just sitting around talking about the stuff you've been talking about the whole time. It's a recognition that you are done, and the process is something that can be designed itself. Here's an example of a project you worked on, so learn from this and move on. It's good. Small Towers was a small project, 2 months. Last time I just chatted, it was about the design of it and where it came from, how it evolved, and contrasting that with what people believe design is about, which is this, the end product. Actually, we never see this. We see this only at the moment we let go of the project. It's done. We're done working on it. All the steps before this one don't look like this. All the way down to the smallest, tiniest changes at the last minute. The smallest, tiniest change at the last minute now is a slightly longer hold on the numbers you see above the mine, showing you how much gold you have. And I say slightly, I mean I increased it by a little over 1 second. It fades out within 4 seconds, but I increased its time that it's held there. Because it's a high priority item, I may not be done tweaking that, but the point is, these are the smallest changes. And big, large, dramatic decisions and choices and development had to be made before this. If you took a snapshot of, well, we have snapshots, we have VODs. If you took a snapshot of this project in the middle of it, you'd see huge pieces of this game missing. You'd be saying, what is going on? Well, it's in development. It's not there yet. So last time we talked about what it's like to be the designer in that environment. In a way, I'd like to talk about design and the other disciplines in this process. For example, there's art and animation, there's visual effects, there's no sound, but there's lots of code, and the project needed to be set up as a local game, as well as it needs to talk with Twitch, as well as it needs to, actually it talks back to Twitch as well. Small Towers is a game that needed a little bit of research. That was part of the process. And we're also still testing. A proper post-mortem looks at, like I said, the product, the game we see, and the process as separate things. We critique the product. We say, what works well, what could be better? And I could say, well, there aren't as many upgrades as planned. it is good that there are some upgrades. There's lots of variety, and I like the emergent strategies and tactics that can emerge. Sorry, players can find these emergent tactics, and that's cool. I might say the hurdle of explaining to a first-time player what's going on is still there. It's not completely sorted yet, despite the fact that we have a help panel and blah, blah, blah. It's critical that a first-time player can understand it, and the things that get in the way is just not wanting to put a big wall of text on screen. And so that struggle still continues. That's less successful than anything else is. First-time experience is a bit daunting. Now, my firm belief is that if you have a bunch of people playing this and someone new walks in and watches for a minute, they'll get it much faster. I'm positive. That's how gamers work. But also, let's look at the process. Early on, I saw the potential for the communications to and from Twitch. The fact that we have viewers as players, they're already registered and they're sitting here and they can chat. And so we could do a casual game with simple commands in text that would entertain chat. And that sorted research as a big block of stuff to do immediately. It sorted the idea that in the end, this game cannot be full screen. It has to occupy a very small part of the screen to get out of the way and let the actual broadcast be what it needs to be. It's meant to be less distracting. That said, really can't do this without having something on screen. At least it has no sound. That was a conscious decision. And then, being that it is small, what art style, what elements, how many elements on the screen, that composition took shape rather quickly because of the limitations. It was actually the constraints, 10% of the bottom of the screen. That constraint set a lot of the art style and the composition of the game right off the bat. So that happened almost immediately, and it helped the process because in developing the art direction, I immediately gravitated to pixel art. I immediately remembered a character I had made in the style of medieval, sword-wielding dude, and immediately saw how I could use that artwork and modify it to be all the characters in the game. Done. I mean, it took a while to get there, but it was easy to see how I could move forward with that. And so, again, research became a block of things to do because coming up with the art meant coming up with the pipeline, the process to which I would be doing pixel art and then eventually bringing it into the game. And what would the style be like? The style would end up looking like something as a reflection of that process, that pipeline, which included, simply reducing the artwork. This is a huge image, and then I reduced it, and so this is the result. It's got a lot of blending in it, and it looks like I had spent a lot of time doing pixel art when actually I didn't. I mean, there's a lot of time into this, but it looks like I took a lot of pains to blend these colors when I really did not. I just painted with a smaller palette of colors and let it blend. So really it was just a matter of designing these characters at that point because I had a pipeline. And I even had a set of animations for this character. He had idle, he had hit, he had death, he had cheer even. And you know what? That's another thing I would like. I'm sad about stuff that isn't in there. At the end of the match, these characters are meant to cheer, and I have not been able to get them to cheer. It's been frustrating me, and I just remembered it. It's nothing big, but it is a little animation. They stop and cheer. I think it would add a lot. These animations were here, and so I mirrored those animation sets for every other character. And that set the organization of the art immediately, because there was an art direction stemming from a hero character. The pipeline was sorted out, and I even knew the scope of work in terms of characters and their animation sets. I took that as the direction to go for all of the other art pieces. And that's really set the organization forward, and that's actually a big part of what we need to talk about. In the beginning, this is what the artwork looked like. They were stand-in pieces where I just needed something on screen to represent the pieces that would be in the layout for the game. Because I saw what the layout should be, I just didn't have them yet, right? This was a guess at what the organization on screen visually would be like, and so I threw it down. From there, I was able to build on it and make it look a little bit more real, a little bit more like what the end product is. We talked about that process throughout, which is to say, when you don't have anything, first thing you do is you throw down something, knowing that you are free to come back and revise it. That does for you. You should just throw it down. It is good. Once things were in place, even this really janky prototype looking stuff, this was enough to see what needed to happen. I was actually able to get movement going with this character. I was actually able to, put some pieces together and make it a little bit more like what you see. But I organized the scope of work. Artwork, for example, was now laid out very clearly as a set of steps because of that organization. Do some research, set out the pipeline, here's the different characters, here's the sets of animations, here's the buildings, go. Later, I would come up with, I need a ton of visual effects as well, and I need all that. I mean, a ton of visual effects. But even that was discovering partway through after I'd gotten this prototype stage in place. Oh, that's right. I need to represent death, for example. I need to represent damage as, points that are being reduced. The spells of course, turned out to be huge effects-heavy projects. But I didn't need to know that ahead of time. That's not what I mean by the organization. What I mean is I threw down something and realized it needed revision. It needed something added to it. It needed to be changed. It needed something taken away at times. But throughout, there was organization. The key was finding the organization that would work for now and modifying that organization as I went forward. You've been seeing me work in this layout for Unity, and you've seen these folder systems in the project, and you've even seen me set up folders, something like folders, in the scene using a script that just holds a game object in place so I can name it and parent things under it like a folder. This is for organization purely. It's so that when something goes wrong or I want to change and revise the next thing, I know exactly where to go. Dividing the work among separate scripts and naming the scripts means I know exactly where to go when I want to find something like changing the time that it takes to hold on the numbers over the mine. This organization sets you free. That is absolutely true. This project proves the point. It's just a best practice. So when you're keen to find the organization early and use it throughout, you're on the right track. When you are willing to throw it down bravely because you are going to throw something down, even if it's rough and ugly, and you are going to revise it after that, so it's safe, go ahead and throw it down. You are doing best practices. In the beginning, this game does not look like this game. In the beginning, this game looks empty. And all you have is your vision of what the game will be and the willingness to jump in, throw something down, and move on. Moving on, just like our post-mortem today, doesn't mean ignoring this thing forever and hoping it works out. Ignoring is the problem that you want to resolve with design. Instead, you pay close attention to it. You're going to throw it down, and moving on now means coming back to it maybe immediately or maybe later. The fact that I just now remembered there is a cheer animation tells me it could be much later, right? Every character has cheer, and I should implement these, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've been trying to implement them. It's a sore spot. So I don't have to tell you about code to tell you about organization, right? That said, of course, this code is organized. These are separate scripts for a reason, and some of them are really small. And that's to divide the work so that scripts that do a lot of work, like this one, don't have to be as long. The script that handles matchmaking, for example, is really, really short because a lot of this work was offloaded. It was like the entire script. And that's what I mean, the script that handles matchmaking. It handles one feature. This is the script that parses the commands that come from Twitch and funnels it to the right tool. That's all that this tool does, is pipe commands from Twitch to the right place. That's the only thing the command manager does. By dividing the work, naming a script a certain way, and then sticking to it as the owner of that feature, you've organized. Now, I could easily see how maybe the player manager and the small game manager are too big, could be divided up. Yes, there's definitely things like the AI in the player manager could be separated out. And that would just be an example of further revision, more organization, so that I can continue to revise and make it better. Whether we're doing art or code, whether we're doing level design, character design, narrative design, it doesn't matter. Design is throwing something down and expecting to continue to revise it and make it better until they rip it out of your hands. Now, in my case, no one's ripping it out of my hands. I'm going to move back to Shuffle Wars, and the game is neatly at a space and in the 2-month mark that I can stop. Except for the cheer. I kind of want to get the cheer in. The point is, I didn't know exactly how long it would take. I took an educated guess based on experience, how long it would take. And it was about 6 weeks, 8 weeks. That's about right. That's about what happened. I didn't expect to go all the way through all of the spells and the upgrades, so it's kind of a bonus, actually. There are some upgrades I left behind. Totally fine. They would have taken more art, more code. Frankly, they would have complicated the balance of the game. So I'm happy where it is. But I did not know the organization ahead of time. I did not know all the details about what needed to be in the game ahead of time. That is not how design works. That's not how game design works. Instead, I had an idea that looked like the finished product. I had an idea that roughly looked like this. The bots are playing this game as I saw it. Roughly speaking, this is what I saw. And my job early on was to pull apart the pieces that make this happen. And the fun thing is, if you're interested in game design, this is an exercise you can do now with your favorite games. Pull apart the features and elements that needed to be there to make the game. Because if you have your own game idea, you're going to have to do that as a first step. That's what led me to realize, oh, I can use one of my characters that I already have. If I didn't, I would have started with a character and then an animation set and some artwork for the ground, the trees, the building, the tower, flag. Even if it was really, really rough. That ugly, blocky pixel art stuff that I threw down originally, that was step one. Once I could visualize what it was and I could confirm that the layout of the game was going to work, then I could move forward with art and code roughly at the same time. Going back and forth between the two, I'd make a little bit of art, do a bit of code to make it do its thing, and move on. Getting characters to walk around was first. Then I got them to do some combat. Then I made new character classes and each had some new ability. I had visual effects to do because it was hard to see when you took damage or when you died. You know, you needed a little extra. And as I went, I realized, oh wow, I need a shader because I'd like to be able to change the color of the flag. I'd like to be able to make the archer angle his body up or down based on where he's going to shoot, but I don't need to have separate, dozens of different animation sets to do that. I can just have one shooting animation and one piece that rotates. I need a shader for that. I had no idea I needed to do that until I got there. It's fine though. I think it just looks better when he can angle up or down. So, last time we talked about the design and how the point of it all is the player's viewpoint, the player's experience. That is what you're crafting. And this image, in my mind, of what the final product would be, that's where those things come together. That is the player's experience of what the game is. I want someone to show up on stream, see this game, and go, whoa. That's what I wanted. I want them to play through it and say, wow. That's what I wanted. To then pull it apart means you are beginning the process of organizing the different elements and how they might be developed. Discovering as you go what is needed to make it better. What is needed next? What is the next highest priority thing? In the middle of the process, things coming together means that it can be put together and you can begin to see more of this, although it's not complete. That's, again, a weird thing to describe to people who don't know this process, what it's like to see a half-finished thing. Right? A half-finished engine in a car doesn't run, doesn't move the car, right? It's hard to describe this, right? Lots of pieces to it, lots of things that are going to be necessary to do its thing. What people see is a car. They drive a car. The engine runs. That's what it is. What they don't see is the process before that. What they don't see is the process before the house is built. What they don't see is what the process is before the business is up and running and growing and thriving. These aren't obvious to people because, frankly, we don't present that to people. We present the end product. Here's a car. Here's a house. Here's a business. Here's a game. You see the end product and you're like, wow, it's exactly what you're expected to say because we're presenting it to you. Not midway through, but at the end. But in the middle, this game looked like hints of what this was. At the same time, plenty of things that weren't there, plenty of things that were broken. No wizard spells, for example. Archers were janked and did not actually look like they were shooting correctly at all. Something was off. But it was going by too fast, it was hard to see, blah, blah, blah. There were bugs, missing features, all kinds of things. Yeah, I still have a problem with this AI getting a healer and then having them run out the front line like he's going to make peace or something. Yeah. A couple of tweaks to AI is one of the things. Maybe the cheer animation is another thing. Like I said, you have to rip it away from me before I'm done as the designer. So then you get to the end of the process, and whether it's art or code or sound or any other piece, you are making the smaller, finer changes. You're fine-tuning, you're polishing. That hold on the display of the gold above the mine being just over a second longer, that's a super small change. Getting the characters to cheer at the end of the match, that, well, frankly, I'd like to see that. These are smaller changes. They don't affect the rest of the game. It's not a huge thing that's necessary for the game to run. It just makes it better. So, to do this work, it's not about playing games. It's not about knowing games. It's not about this end product. To do this work, you have to be willing to make and create, which means you're looking at unfinished stuff all the time. Stuff that needs to be done, stuff that needs to be tweaked, stuff that is wrong. Bugs. That's what you're looking at all the time. And a way to get through that is with a bit of courage, knowing that whatever you throw down can be revised and improved. An attention to detail, which let's not gloss over it as a glib phrase. It is necessary for you to fix the things to make it right. If you have that, you're going to do better. Whether it's art, or code, or design, narrative, whatever. And I do believe there are people who watch Twitch who are interested in more than just watching a finished game played by somebody else and chatting on screen and being parasocial. All that is fine. All that is cool. All that is great. But I also believe that this platform, just like regular old television, has potential to do far more. What we do on this channel is not unlike Bob Ross making a painting. We're just making a game. And I guess the biggest difference is you can talk back at Bob Ross. And he can talk with you. Isn't that fun? This has a potential for describing stuff that is hidden, like game development and game design. And to expose it, and to talk about it, and to effectively demonstrate best practices. That's why we're here. See? Full circle. So, yeah, I can always come back to a project. I mean, heck, just this morning, this avatar got a tweak, the smallest tweak that no one will ever notice. When I start up this avatar, the jungle sounds begin, and they always began at the same place. This morning I said, oh, I can just randomize that. So it starts at different places for the multiple tracks of jungle sounds that are being crossfaded and mixed and stuff. No one will ever notice that, but I'm like, oh, good. It doesn't always sound exactly the same when I start up this avatar. It's actually nice. I've been working on this thing for over a year. Like, I don't expect to stop working on any of my hobby projects. If I see something that can be changed, I'm going to go in and make it better. It's true. Right now, the game at the bottom looks pretty cool. Yeah. But I can see me saying, oh, wait, cheer, and, the other things that I want to do. Yeah. So, if you're interested in watching an ape do more games, game design, game development, we do art sometimes, we do code sometimes. Follow, like, subscribe, retweet, and when you show up on stream, please use Command Tie. It's a way for me to understand that you are here, and I will pay attention to you. Until then, stay safe, do well, be good, stay safe, and stay safe. Stay safe. Be safe. Check your corners, eat your vegetables, be good to your parents. See ya.